All right, guys. So we're gonna get into the whole situation with the Epstein files. So very interesting developments here. So obviously, we know the DOJ and the FBI came out and said, "Oh, there's never been a file. Nope, no file, nothing to see here, right?" And then they released a 10-hour clip, video footage of Epstein's cell, and they left out the minute that he committed suicide. Oh, we can't release that because the cameras turn off for like a minute sometimes randomly, right? So it was literally one of those explanations. It was just like, wow. So they're like, all right, let's bury it. Let's bury this whole thing and let's move on, guys. Like, nope. MAGA's like, no. Reason why a lot of us elected you is because we want you to expose the elitist pedophiles. Are you caping for the elitist pedophiles, Trump? Is that what you're doing now? So now you're protecting the elitist pedophiles. Wow, that's not what we voted for. So now you have really two very important figures in his administration. You got Kash Patel and Don Bongino who are like, yo, if you guys don't drop this Pam Bondi chick, we're gonna leave the administration, because they're starting to realize, like, oh my God, there's so many cracks in this whole thing, and that a lot of what they're saying is being discredited, and they're looked at as like liars as well, right? So Pam Bondi, remember, she was the chick that was like, oh yeah, I have the Epstein files right on my desk. I read through the whole thing. I know everybody on the list. Yep, I got it. They're right on my desk and they're ready to be released and everybody's going to get them. And then they did the whole theatrics where they gave everybody like a folder with old documents that anyone could pull up online. They're like, we got them, guys. We got the files. It's over with. And so essentially what they're telling the American people is like, okay, these people are dumb. They don't really necessarily care about the Epstein files. They're going to forget about it after a couple weeks, just like they think we're going to forget about everything. Oh, they're going to forget about how we just massacred 60,000 children in Gaza. One day they'll just forget about them. We'll rewrite history and it'll be over with. Nah. MAGA is not letting this go. These hardcore Trumpers, their whole identity was Trumpism, and now they're finding out that their president is possibly caping for some pedos, some child predators, guys, and it's again, it's rubbing people the wrong way, right? So they have this they were having this, I guess, like this conference thing going on, and Tucker Carlson, guys, Tucker Carlson, a lot of people are calling him Qatar Carlson, right? Because they're accusing him of getting money from Qatar, and that this guy's, he's all of a sudden become very critical of Israel, and oh my God, he's critical of Israel. Oh, it's over with. Oh, he doesn't like the fact that they're killing 60,000 kids. Oh, he's probably getting paid from Qatar, and he's anti-Semitic. So it's it's one of those things with Tucker Carlson now. So let's get into his clips where he tells it like it is, right?
Not acceptable. And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American. And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan? Where did all the money come from? And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried. And moreover, it's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that. There's nothing anti-Semitic about saying that. There's nothing even anti-Israel about saying that. I've spent my entire life pretty much in Washington, where I knew and loved a number of people, including one very close person who worked at CIA. That has never prohibited me from saying, I think the CIA has done some horrible things, murdered a bunch of people, participated in the murder of a sitting U.S. president. It's got a whole trail of crimes. That doesn't make me a disloyal American. It doesn't make me anti-American in any sense. I was born here. My family's been here for hundreds of years. I love this country. That's why I live here. So criticizing the behavior of a government agency does not make you a hater. It makes you a free person. It makes you a citizen. You're allowed to do that because you're not a slave, you're a citizen. And you have a right to expect that your government will not act against your interests, and you have a right to demand that foreign governments not be allowed to act against your interest. That's not creepy. It shouldn't be forbidden. And yet all of us have trained ourselves to believe that you can't say that somehow. That's like too naughty and forbidden. And the effect of making that off limits has been to create a lot of resentment, and I'll say it, hate online, where people feel like they can't just say, like, what the hell is this? You have the former Israeli prime minister living in your house. You have had all this contact with the foreign government. Were you working on behalf of Mossad? Were you running a blackmail operation on behalf of a foreign government? By the way, every single person in Washington, D.C. thinks that. I've never met anyone who doesn't think that. I don't know any of them that hate Israel, but no one feels they can say that. Why? And I think the longer that we play along with it, the more subterranean and creepy and hateful the conversation actually becomes. So I think it's better just to say it right out loud. Did this happen? And of course, that question has been asked to the government of Israel, and their answer is, we're not going to tell you. And I think our answer should be, no. As long as we're sending you money, if you were committing crimes on our soil, we have an absolute right to know, did you do this or not? And yet everybody has been so brainwashed into thinking that's somehow an expression of hate or bigotry, when it's not. It's a baseline question that every U.S. citizen has a right to an answer on. What the hell was this? And by the way, if it turns out that it was nothing.
Yeah, man. So, Tucker Carlson's alluding to the fact that, Epstein had one of the former prime ministers of Israel, Ehud Barak, who was living in the same house as him, right? And they had this like close relationship. There's weird photos of him sitting on a toilet, like naked, or some weird shit like that, So there's something going on there. And so, and we know that Epstein was definitely a Mossad agent. There's no denying that. He, especially the connection with Ghislaine Maxwell, which her father was like an important Israeli asset. They had like a funeral for him, like he was the king of fucking Rome or something, right? So there was that whole situation there. So there's definitely a connection there. And all these politicians are blackmailed. They're blackmailed, unfortunately. Sad state of affairs, really, man. Sad state of affairs that there's all these American politicians or even billionaires, right? Bill Gates was one of them. So, Tucker Carlson's he's just being honest. Like, look, we know what happened. Can you guys just confirm it? And the DOJ and the FBI is like, no. And, again, they're choosing, because this could essentially, guys, regardless of what people want to say, like, this could literally, the ramifications are going to be it's going to be crazy, man. It's probably going to be assassinations all over the place. Like, they have, like, Israeli officials and fucking Saudi Arabian princes on there, bro. Right, so you gotta imagine they just gave, and part of and people were saying, oh, was that Qatar trip that Trump did? Was that that wasn't a bribe? He was just taking money. Come on, man. Don't you think some of that money was like, hey, man, let's keep this Epstein file under wraps. Here's $2 trillion. Here's the X, Y, and Z. So you never know, man. And there's gonna be a lot of people suing the government. There's going to be a lot of lawsuits filed. There's going to be a lot of distrust. There could be impeachment issues. And to be honest with you guys, I wouldn't be all the way shocked if Trump's on those files, because he was very close with Jeffrey Epstein. There's a collage of photos with this guy. He, the guy introduced Melania to to Trump. Epstein introduced Melania to Trump. And Trump's one of those guys who's like, I like him young, grab him by the pussy. I like him young. So, and not only that, he could have ordered a hit on Epstein, right? Because Epstein magically died when Trump was in office. And the guy was, everybody, the forensic scientists and everyone was like, this is definitely a homicide. Like, he was killed by someone. And I've been hearing also some people were saying that the guard officers, one of them was like shopping on Amazon when this happened, and the other one was using the restroom. So they're starting to make excuses on why the guards weren't able to spot that the guy was committing suicide, quote unquote. And, you know, so there's that going on. So these people are coming up with like excuse over excuse, thinking that the American public is just going to let this one go. Like they let go a whole bunch of other shit and that MAGA is going to let it go. And everyone's like, no, we're not letting this shit go. And now Trump's administration is essentially crumbling, you know, because Bongino and Kash Patel are like, we're done. You know, this shit's obviously, you know, who knows what their sentiments are, but Bongino, it'd probably be easier for him to step down because he does have that base that he can also, you know, it'll pretty much, you know, he'll still be able to maintain his audience because he's built a career off of talking shit about the FBI. Like that's literally what he's known for. You know, he's just criticized the FBI and different intelligence agencies and stuff. And so we're gonna have to see what happens, man. But it's getting real interesting. It's getting real heated, right? And Trump is yet to comment on this whole thing. Yeah, it's getting bad.